I didn't hear the door. I heard my own heartbeat first, loud and stupid, before I even opened my eyes. She was just standing there. Not in the doorway, past it, like she'd already decided she belonged in the room. "You left your light on," she said. Like that explained anything. I'm Eli. 23, crashing on my buddy Marcus's couch for the summer because my lease fell through and my pride hadn't caught up yet. I knew there was a sister. Older. Divorced, maybe. Marcus never said much, just "she's around sometimes," the way you'd mention weather. I didn't picture this. Standing in gray sweatpants at 2 in the morning, arms crossed like she was cold, or bracing for something. "Sorry," I said, sitting up too fast, blanket pooling at my waist. "I didn't hear you come in. You talk in your sleep." She wasn't smiling exactly. "Something quieter than that." "Said a name." "Not mine." "What name?" "Doesn't matter." She looked at the window instead of me. I was getting water. Saw the light under the door. That wasn't the hallway. That wasn't on the way to anything. Neither of us moved. The house made its small settling sounds around us, a pipe ticking, the fridge humming downstairs, and she just stood there in my half-dark room like she'd forgotten why she came, or like she hadn't forgotten at all. "Diane," she said finally. Her name, unprompted, like a door left open a crack. "I know," I said. "Marcus talks about you too." Something crossed her face, gone before I could name it. "Does he?" she said. And didn't leave. Part 2, what we don't say ***. She didn't leave. I didn't ask her to. "Marcus said you just moved back," I said, mostly to fill the silence, mostly because looking at her too long felt like doing something wrong. 6 weeks ago. She sat on the edge of the desk chair, not the bed. I noticed that, the careful math of it. The house was easier to come back to than explain. I knew there'd been a husband. A name that used to live in this house and didn't anymore. Marcus had said it once, fast, like he was skipping past a bruise. "You don't have to explain anything," I said. "I know." She looked at her hands. "That's not usually what stops me." I noticed things I had no business noticing. The way she pulled her sleeve down over her wrist, like she was cold or like she was hiding something. The chip in her nail polish, one thumb worried raw. Late 30s, she'd said once, though some nights she looked younger than that and some nights, like this one, older, tired in a way that had nothing to do with the hour. I'm 23. I kept saying it to myself like a fact that would fix something. "You should probably get back to bed," she said, not moving. Probably. Neither of us moved either. "Can I ask you something?" she said, and didn't wait for permission. "Does it bother you that I came in here?" It should have. That was the answer I meant to give. "No," I said instead. She looked up at that, really looked, the kind of look that stays a beat too long, and reached out, fingers landing light on my forearm, like she was checking if I was real. "Stay awake a little longer," she said. "Just talk to me." "Talk about what?" I said, because I needed her to pick the subject before I picked the wrong one. "Anything." "Nothing." She pulled one leg up onto the chair, hugging her knee, and for a second she looked less like Marcus's sister and more like a person, unfiled, unlabeled. I forgot what this felt like. Somebody just listening. He didn't listen. He listened to the version of me that agreed with him. She said it flat, no bitterness performed for my benefit, which somehow made it worse. I got good at being that version. Took me a while to remember there was another one. I wanted to ask which version I was getting. I didn't. Her hand was still near mine on the blanket, not touching, just close enough that the space between them felt like its own kind of contact. I watched it instead of her face. Safer, I told myself. It wasn't. Downstairs, a door. Keys in a bowl. Marcus's voice, muffled, calling something up the stairs, home early, or home at all, I hadn't tracked the hours. She stood up fast. Not guilty, exactly. Efficient. Like she'd rehearsed this exit without knowing it. That's my brother, she said, unnecessary, both of us already knowing. Yeah. At the door she stopped. Didn't turn around all the way. This was, she started, and didn't finish it. Left it hanging the way you leave a door not quite shut. Diane. She looked back then, over her shoulder, waiting. I had a sentence in my mouth. I didn't say it. Good night, Eli, she said, and the way she used my name, like she'd been saving it. Followed me long after the door clicked shut. 3 days of nothing. 3 days of hallway nods, of her handing me a coffee mug without meeting my eyes, of Marcus oblivious between us like a wall neither of us mentioned building. I found her on the back porch on the 4th night, alone, a glass of wine gone warm beside her, untouched. Can't sleep either. I said. I wasn't trying to. She didn't look surprised I'd found her. Maybe she'd been waiting to see if I would. Sit if you want. I sat. Left space between us that neither of us filled and both of us noticed. I keep replaying it, she said finally, eyes on the dark yard. Your room. What I almost, she stopped. Started differently. I'm 41, Eli. You know that. I know. That should embarrass me more than it does. Does it embarrass you? She turned then, and there was nothing careful in it this time. No. That's the part that scares me. I felt something crack open in my chest, plain and unglamorous, the way honesty actually feels instead of how it looks in movies. I think about you when I shouldn't, I said. I've thought about you since the first night. I don't know what to do with that. Don't do anything with it, she said, too fast, like she was talking herself down a ledge. That's the responsible answer. Is it the one you want? The porch light buzzed. Somewhere a dog barked twice and quit. She didn't answer, just looked at me with her glass forgotten in her hand, like she was doing the math of what saying yes would cost, and not finding a number that scared her enough to leave. Ask me again tomorrow, she said. Tomorrow didn't come the way I expected. Marcus was in the kitchen when I came down, arms crossed, coffee untouched in front of him. Diane wasn't there. That was the first wrong thing. Sit down, he said. I sat. She told you about Daniel, he said. Not a question. Her husband. Some of it. Did she tell you why he left? He wasn't angry, exactly, worse than angry, careful, like he'd rehearsed this too. He left because she fell for someone. Young guy, a coworker. Nothing happened, she swears nothing happened, and I believe her. But it broke the marriage anyway. Just the wanting did. I didn't say anything. My coffee went cold in my hands. I watched what that did to her, he said. The guilt. Not for cheating, for almost. For finding out she was capable of it. He finally looked at me straight. And now I'm watching you two circle each other like I'm not standing right here. Marcus. I'm not telling you to stop. That surprised me more than anything else he'd said. I'm telling you what you're walking into. She doesn't trust herself around this. That's not about you. That's about the last time. Diane was in the doorway. Neither of us had heard her come down. How long were you standing there? Marcus said, not unkindly. Long enough. She wasn't looking at her brother. She was looking at me, something exposed and unguarded in her face that hadn't been there before, like the story being told about her had stripped something bare. Now you know, she said. The whole ugly reason I keep stopping myself. It's not ugly, I said. It's just true. Her breath caught, small, like that was the wrong thing to say and exactly the right one at once. Marcus left the kitchen without another word. Gave us that much, at least, the room, the quiet, the choice. Diane didn't sit down. She stood in the doorway like she was still deciding whether to stay in the story or step out of it. I'm not him, I said. The coworker. Whatever almost happened there. I'm not asking you to almost anything. I know that. Her voice was rough. That's what makes this harder, not easier. If you were nothing, I could stop this in an afternoon. You're not nothing. You haven't been nothing since the second night, when I should have walked past your door and didn't. So don't walk past it now. Eli. My name again, like it cost her something every time. If we do this and it falls apart, I don't come back from a second one. I mean that. Then we don't let it fall apart. It sounded too simple saying it out loud. I said it anyway. I'm not looking for something to almost have. I've had almost. I'm so tired of almost. She crossed the kitchen, not fast, not dramatic, just finally, and stood close enough that I could see her hands weren't steady. I'm scared, she said. Flat, unguarded, no performance in it at all. I know. Me too. That's supposed to make me feel better. No, I said. It's supposed to make it true. She laughed, short and wet, and it broke something loose in her face, the careful math she'd been doing since that first night, finally coming out even. Okay, she said, so quiet I almost missed it. Her hand found mine on the counter, fingers lacing through slow, like she was still testing whether the ground would hold. It held. Marcus took it better than either of us expected, which is to say he took it at all. Just don't make me the guy who introduced you, he said once, dry, already halfway to a joke. It was the closest thing to a blessing he had in him, and it was enough. Diane stopped hiding her wrists under her sleeves. I noticed that before she probably did, a small unclenching, the kind that doesn't announce itself. We didn't rush it. That mattered more than I understood at the time. No declarations for the sake of drama, no grand fixing of the fear she'd carried in from her marriage. Some nights she still went quiet, checking herself against a version of the story that ended badly. I learned to sit in that quiet with her instead of trying to talk her out of it. That was the difference, I think, not that the fear disappeared, but that it stopped being something she carried alone. I used to think love was the moment you stopped being scared. It isn't. It's who stays in the room while you are. I woke up that first night to a stranger standing beside my bed. I didn't know yet that I'd spend the rest of my nights grateful she hadn't turned around and left. Did you enjoy this story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Tell me in the comments, ***.